Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to all of you in person and to those of you joining us online on YouTube for the third annual Get Home Safe Day in North Dakota event. We are very proud and happy that all of you are joining us and taking part in this wonderful initiative. 3 years ago, we launched this as a program designed to change the hearts and minds of workers in North Dakota, to get them to focus on the real reason why they work and what working safely means for them, their families, their abilities to enjoy their hobbies outside of work. And we've seen tremendous success over those last 3 years. And the discussion continues and new safety ideas are being generated. And that's the purpose of today. Today we are expanding this event from just a regular news conference to mark Get Home Safe Day in North Dakota. We have a tremendous agenda set up today with a panel of industry experts that will be discussing different safety technologies, best practices, a variety of things that every business in North Dakota, every worker in North Dakota can utilize to make sure at the end of their shift, at the end of the day, they get to go home in the same peace that they came in to the work that morning. Today is about learning. It's about sharing ideas, sharing best practices, and we are so glad to have our champion of Get Home Safe Day here to address us and to read the proclamation declaring June 1st as Get Home Safe Day in North Dakota. For those of you wondering, June is National Safety Month, and so that is how we picked this month to dedicate it. And at this time, I would like to welcome Governor Kelly Armstrong, who's been a staunch supporter of this initiative and of the workers and businesses of North Dakota. Please welcome Governor Armstrong.
You know, it's kind of fun. One of my favorite things about North Dakota is it's just coming into rooms exactly like this and talking to people about something you weren't even thinking about. But I can tell you, I think maybe one of the reasons you asked me to do this is because I'm an old baseball guy. We were just talking about state baseball and state softball, and now summer baseball and summer softball are starting. So I used to tell my kids to get home safe a lot. That was usually a pretty good idea if you were coaching third base. I think this takes on a different meaning. But also talking to a former colleague of mine on the volunteer fire department in Dickinson and recognizing, one, as people in first responders, seeing them here and understanding that and knowing that the number one goal whenever you respond to a fire or a car accident or a law enforcement call is that everybody who responds to that incident comes home safe when you're down. And I think as we talk about this statewide and for every industry, which I'll say a couple things about in a second, I think that's probably the most important one because they are literally the people who respond to things. Well, we're all moving away from them. They're all moving towards them. It doesn't matter what it is, right? If firefighters being deployed, if the fire department's being deployed, something's going on. And they don't know what it is necessarily until they get there. And even when they get there, they don't know what it is until they're in the structure. Same with law enforcement. I say it all the time. The only time you know a traffic stop is routine is when it's over. After that and dealing with all of that. So it's great to be here. It's great to be invited by Art. I think we have 3 things that really put this home and why this culture change is important. 1, our number 1 and 2 industries are ag and energy. They're out, you're doing a lot of things, you're using heavy equipment, you're materializing, and there are significant potentials to injuries in every field, but specifically in those 2. 2, we drive a lot and we drive in bad weather. That's the reality of where we live, why we live. It's part of why we like here. So you combine all of those things, and we already start at a scenario where you have the potential for injury on the job. You have the potential for all of those things. So making sure that culture is deployed statewide in each and every organization, in each agency, in each business is really, really important. And it's technology can solve some of it. It doesn't solve all of it. Being prepared before you do anything, whether it's planting, whether it's rigging up, whether it's going to work on I-29 or I-94 in a construction season. making sure that you have systems in place and a culture of accountability and a culture of caring about your coworkers and your employees and the people who are doing this work is the single most important way to make sure that we are dedicating ourselves to making sure every North Dakotan that goes to work comes home at the end of the day. So it's a lot of fun to be here. And I'd like to say thanks, Art, and thank you to WSI for continuing to lead this initiative. It's an honor to join you for the 3rd annual Get Home Safe Day. Today's expanded event reflects the progress of this movement and the growing interest in workforce safety throughout North Dakota. Safety is strongest when it becomes part of everyday decision-making, not just a policy manual or an annual training. Whether you lead a large company, manage a small team, or are just beginning your career, every person has a role in creating safer workplaces. North Dakota's economy depends on hardworking people in every industry: energy, agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, construction, and that's just to name a few. Protecting those workers must always remain a priority, and our administration is committed to ensuring every worker in this state can expect a safe environment from day one on the job until retirement. That's especially important in North Dakota. Again, I said our 2 biggest industries are agriculture and energy, and and nationally, they really are the 2 of the most dangerous industries according to the National Safety Council. I grew up in the oil and gas industry, so I know how important safety is. To be fair, I ran title in a courthouse or bought leases, so I didn't spend a lot of time on rigs. I did spend a lot of time on scaffolding, painting houses for my grandpa. He probably could have utilized this conference a little bit. But no, I got to go on a rig last week, and from the time when I grew up and watching rigs chain up and doing, I mean, this is where technology and attitude of companies can really, really be important. I mean, the difference between going on an oil rig in 1981 and going on an oil rig in 2026, I mean, they're not even playing the same sport. It was the Wild West out there in the early 80s. And now, I mean, the first thing that happens is you recognize the culture of safety and the technology that involves chains. We're not putting casing in the ground with chains anymore. We're using automated technology that keeps the most dangerous part of the activity out of human activity. And it's really fascinating to watch. And but that doesn't happen without companies and employees demanding it and making sure that that culture exists. I also know that every job supports more than a paycheck. It supports family, communities, and our future. When workers are injured, the impact reaches far beyond the workplace. That's why workplace safety matters so deeply. It protects people, strengthens businesses, and keeps our communities and our economy moving forward. We know that the safest workplaces are built through leadership, accountability, training, and a culture where everyone speaks up and looks out for one another. I'm encouraged to see Get Home Safe continue to grow, bring together employers, workers, and safety professionals to share solutions and raise awareness. And I encourage employers across our state to use the tools available through WSI and continue investing in prevention. And that's why I proclaim today, June 1st, 2026, as Get Home Safe Day in North Dakota, stating that we want to build a community in North Dakota where safety isn't just a priority, it's a way of life. To the workers, your voice matters. Speak up, stay engaged, and take care of each other. Together, we can continue building a North Dakota where workplace safety is expected, valued, and lived every single day. Thank you. And next up, I get to introduce our safety champion. Jason Euler is a native of North Dakota. He grew up on a family farm and graduated from Thompson High School. Got a funny story about Thompson. Real quick. So I went to my first year of law school in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's just south of DC and east of Richmond. And it's a really interesting dynamic because you have Newport News, you have Norfolk, you are the capital of the Old South, but you're basically an exurb of Washington, DC. And so you have a lot of northern culture and southern culture and a military culture and a shipbuilding culture. And it's just really interesting place. The other thing about the law school, which I didn't know when I got there, is it was nobody's first choice except mine. I went because I was going to go somewhere and I wanted to have a car. And in Williamsburg, Virginia, you can have a car. And so everybody who was there had a chip on their shoulder because they didn't get into an Ivy League or they didn't get into UVA, and they were there and they didn't know how to treat me because they'd never met anybody from North Dakota before. In fact, all they knew about North Dakota was the movie Fargo. So they'd ask me where I was from, and I'd say Grand Forks. And they'd go, where is that? And I go, have you ever heard of Thompson? And they're like, no. I go, then you wouldn't know where it is. So they also treated me Canadian. They treated me like I was Canadian. I wasn't Northern, I wasn't Southern. I was a little bit of a interesting place in that spot. I made it 1 year. I came back to North Dakota. Weird place. Very nice people, very, very odd place. And it's also Colonial Williamsburg. So after a long day of not studying, you could go grab a beer and sit down next to, like, actually Thomas Jefferson. You're like, this is odd. Jason earned his bachelor's degree and master's degree from the University of North Dakota, where he studied occupational safety, environmental health, and industrial tech. He worked in safety at UND for over 20 years, ultimately serving as director of campus safety and security. He also taught safety-related courses as an adjunct faculty member in the business college. Since 2012, Jason has worked for Minn Kota Power Cooperative, which is based in Grand Forks and operates a lignite coal-fired electric generation plant near Senna, North Dakota. Jason has consistently led the safety programs for Minn Kota, along with other departments, including training and development, risk management, and physical security. He currently lives in Grand Forks with his wife and 2 daughters and enjoys lake time with the family, hunting and fishing, music, and working on classic automobiles. Please join me in welcoming Jason to the club.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Governor Armstrong. Thank you to Workforce Safety and Insurance for bringing people together today to talk about such an important topic. Really do find a lot of joy and happiness seeing a pretty full room of people really gathered here for this purpose today. Again, Jason Euler. I'm just a simple farm boy from the eastern part of the state. It is kind of an odd thing when you are born and raised on a farm where you've worked with your grandfather and your father, and you get really good at just kind of fixing things the way that you can with the things you have, and using the tools that maybe aren't the right tool for the job, and then suddenly transitioning into a field of safety where, you know, it's a lot about procedures. It's a lot about using the right tool. And so there are times I've had some identity crisis, I'm not going to lie, with what I came from and what I do today. But in some regards, I think that makes me a lot more successful at what I do today, because I have been a part of, you know, a small family farm operation operating when things are a little bit rougher and you maybe don't have a lot of financial backing to do things right. Learning how to weld at an early age, learning how to repair motors and tractors and all the things you learn with Grandpa on the farm. So it's kind of funny, all my years of safety education and everything else, I think I draw back on the tank of what Grandpa and Dad taught me, sometimes as much as I draw on other things. So those are good experiences, and glad I have them, and I'm glad I can transition them into some safety. So one of the things that I guess I really wanted to talk a little bit about is that, you know, safety's been a passion of mine for years in my career, largely because I have seen how things go right when you have organizations that deeply care about safety, empower their employees to do the right thing. I've seen the wonderful things that can be accomplished, people getting home to their families, just as we intend with this campaign. You know, the flip side, and in sharp contrast, I've also seen in my career a lot of times where maybe things could have gone better, and where you did have pretty serious accidents and injuries, whether it was with my employer or with other contractors or employers that we were involved with at my respective organizations. You know, that suffering and pain from those incidents and injuries don't just end with those people. They extend to their families, they extend to their friends, they extend to entire communities. And I think any of you in the room that have ever, you know, lost someone or had somebody serious injured know exactly what I'm talking about. There are some very deep ripples. And when it comes to Get Home Safe and the work that we all do, that's really what it's about, right? It's not about the regulation. It's not about the compliance. Those are tools in our tool belt to help us explain to people why it matters and ultimately what we can do to get them home safe, right? People oftentimes ask me if there's a secret sauce or, what does safety look like? Picture of a family in the park, a dad playing catch with his kids, a mom getting her daughter ready for her wedding. That's what safety looks like, right? It looks like the happy moments of our life. It doesn't look like policies. It doesn't look like training. All the things that we caption when we talk about safety, pictures of hard hats, and I can put on a suit of armor, doesn't make me safe, okay? What makes me safe is the brain that's under it all and how I use that and the choices that I make. Now, the important thing about safety is that I think all of us in this room, we believe that most of these injuries I've just talked about are preventable, right? I think that's the reality. Very few accidents and injuries that happen are truly accidents. Most of them, when you really dive in and you look, you can determine really quickly that, man, if something could have been just a little bit different, the person would have potentially walked away without an injury. So that's the reality. It's not always about the policy violation. It's not always about who was at fault or who was wrong. It's about what can you do every day to just avoid that bad thing from happening, okay? And that's just simple stuff, okay? That's simple stuff. The hard part is getting people to think about that and feel empowered to speak up when they see something that might just be needing a tweak, okay? That's where some of these core pieces that I think culture has been talked about already. We talk about safety culture, but really it's your entire organization's culture. It's really the culture that you choose to adopt in the way that you live and the way you kind of guide your family. And that is a culture that, really has strong leadership. Now that leadership, we always say, it's wonderful here today to see the governor and to see Art and those of us that are career safety leaders. But when I talk about safety leadership, I'm talking about every single person on the crew. Anybody can be a leader, whether it's a safety leader or just being a leader. And that means somebody who's willing to stand up and say, hey, what about this? Or what about that, right? It's just simply having that confidence and that courage to do that. There's a role that administrators and managers and supervisors play. For somebody to have that level of comfort, they need to be listened to, right? Think about it. If the first time an employee speaks up, they're belittled, or they're not listened to, or they're poo-pooed, they're probably not going to speak up again, right? And so that's the type of safety leadership I'm talking about. Amongst employees, it's very important. If you have some experienced people and you have some new people, if that new person asks a question and then they're made to feel slight, that first time they ask a question, they're probably never going to ask another one. Simple stuff. That's culture, right? That's the culture pieces that you really need to work on in an organization. And again, it comes with empowering, and it comes with really teaching people to understand that, treating people with respect and protecting their self-esteem is really an important process. Now, of course, there's accountability. If you have somebody that's making that same mistake over and over again, we have to correct that. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Talked a little bit about communication already, and I think communication, any survey that you ever conduct of an organization, what could be improved, you're going to see that somebody says communication should be improved. But I think very rarely do people understand what they mean when they even say it. Okay? Does it mean you need to talk more? Not necessarily, right? Communication needs to be flowing in multiple directions. And for safety to work, again, there needs to be, from the very top, a communication of what's expected, what employees are empowered to do, and ultimately that leads up to even stop work authority. And, if you see something, say something. But it also means that that communication needs to come, from the employees back up. So it's really two-way and where people feel listened to and there's open dialogue. Getting into the why, just announcing what's happening without telling people the why, you don't always get buy-in. So that's a really important part of communication that I think needs to be there. Training is a huge thing that's also been mentioned, but again, training goes beyond just compliance. There's a lot of things that OSHA or EPA or DOT says we have to have. And you can do that and you can check all the boxes, but do the employees truly understand what that training was for? Okay, can they actually apply it? Do they understand the why? So I think it's really important, again, to take it a little step deeper, make sure that with any training there is ample opportunity for questions, so that people do, have something that's a little bit fuzzy, they can get that clarification. You do all those things right, ultimately what that leads to is trust. And trust is, again, very important ingredient for any culture, right? What's the hard thing we all know about trust is that it's kind of hard to build, takes time, right? Takes effort, you have to work at it. But what we also know about trust is it can disappear in a flash, right? And so again, I implore everybody who is a safety leader in this room, as far as your jobs and your tasks, make sure you're doing all the right things every day, listening to people, caring for people, to build and earn that trust, because that truly is a critical part. At the end of the day, from what you've heard me say, is really safety is about the people, right? It's about the people. It's about caring for them, to make sure they can get home to their family and friends, just like you want to do with yours. Basically, those best programs are those ones that really are built with that compassion and caring in mind. And so again, keep that at the forefront as you move forward in matters of safety. I do want to say that safety is everybody's job. A lot of times people in my own company will see employees sometimes that kind of tongue-in-cheek tell us, oh, we'll let you guys do that, your safety. And that's what they'll tell me or my guys. And the reality of it is, we're there to facilitate, we're there to help, but we're not always there on the job site. We're not always there in the shop. And so, we can control what we can control when we're there, but nobody needs us to be a babysitter. We need to be leaders, but we need to facilitate so that people can trust each other and actually hold each other accountable. That's a really neat thing about a successful safety culture too, is when you have a crew of folks working together that are comfortable enough with one another that they can speak up, and they know that they're not going to be belittled, they're not going to be barked at, they're not going to get in trouble. They know it's a good exchange and that it's being done to just get better. Okay, critical part. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention, we've talked about workplace safety a lot, and that's really, I think, the root of this program and of our interest here. But let's keep in mind that this culture of safety needs to extend to home as well. And I think about my life, I think about the family and friends that I've had injured or lost, and more often than not, those have been home accidents, outside of a workplace. And it does none of us any good as employers, business owners, to take care of our people when they're within our care and then have them go home and get themselves in a tight spot, doing something in their yard or having fun at the lake, riding their motorcycle on the weekend. So again, we have a motto at Minn Kota Power that is safety 24/7, work, live, play. And so really we try to instill everything you do. Again, we don't want to make you paranoid, but we want you to be safety conscious and be mindful of the choices that you make. Because ultimately, your body doesn't care. The accident doesn't care if you're at work or at home. And when you do get hurt, those impacts to your family, your friends, and the entire community, they ripple the same. We had a tragedy last year at Minn Kota when one of our employees was killed kind of in the fall of last year in a home accident. Very freak situation. Watching that ripple through our company, really our entire region, our entire community, was just really painful. The halls were very dark. It was very quiet for a while at Minn Kota as everybody dealt with that in their own way. So again, just to reinforce, we talk a lot about workplace safety. Sometimes I think, we're a lot safer in the workplace than we are at home. We don't have people watching out for us at home except for ourselves. So again, keep that top of mind. It's critical. Again, that one injury can affect people for a lifetime. So being very mindful to keep it on top. Also, safety is never finished, folks. There's no checklist that you get to the bottom of and you're done. You just start right back again. Conditions are forever changing. Regs are completely changing. But technologies, right? Technologies are changing. And with every new technology, we mitigate some risks, but we create some new ones. So again, being very mindful to always be reviewing, always be improving is a very big thing. To every employer that's here today, again, doesn't matter if you have 5 employees or 5,000, I'm just going to challenge you to make sure that you know leadership starts with you, but empower those people below to have that same expectation that everybody can be a safety leader. To every worker here, make sure that you know that your decisions matter, your actions matter, but your voice matters too. Programs rely on your input. Those of us trying to manage safety from the safety department perspective, where I represent, we don't know what you go through every single day in your job. We only know what we know. So again, for us to really serve you, which is our role, serve you and make you successful, we need your input. Doesn't mean we're always going to take it. Just kidding. We'll always listen. We just may not always have the same fix in mind, and that's an important thing to understand. Sometimes an employee may think, hey, why don't we just do this? There may be very good reasons. It goes back to the why. When employees understand the why, they can at least buy into it a little bit better. So let's continue learning from one another, raising the standard for workplace safety, because I think ultimately what we can do is we can make North Dakota the safest state in the U.S. Really, no matter what the job is, everybody deserves to get home safe, and this program can help us do that. So again, thank you all for being here today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jason, and thank you to Governor Armstrong for being here this morning. Really want to say that this is tremendous to see this many people so interested in this initiative. And each year that we host this, it continues to build and the momentum continues to build. And that's what it takes to change the mindset of people, to make safety a value. So people do think about it at home, at work, having those places to have that impact. Why do I work? It's not just about reducing incidents. This is truly about protecting lives, protecting families, and protecting futures. So for those of you that are seeing this that have not checked it out, I would encourage you to go to gethomesafend.com. That's gethomesafend.com. You can sign up for all of the resources. Each month, WSI sends out safety newsletters. Those newsletters are tailored to specific incidents that sometimes we pick up on when we start seeing trends in, the number of accidents of a certain type that are coming into our office. We can be proactive at those and send out alerts. These safety topics include videos. There's posters you can hang up around your place of business. So this campaign and this initiative is really not just for large businesses that have dedicated safety teams. It's for everybody. If you don't know where to start, how to get a program like this in place, gethomesafend.com has the resources to get you on track. Also, from WSI's perspective, we remain committed to providing these resources. We remain committed to having our loss control specialists that are located throughout North Dakota be your partner, to be able to come out and work with your business to help identify hazards, to show you how to mitigate those things. We have grant programs, we have safety discount programs on your premiums, but at the end of the day, this is about making sure everyone goes home, everyone goes to enjoy their life, the live, work, play mentality. And so we are committed to this. We want you to be committed to this. And we know that we will continue to have success with this program. It's interesting because I'm sometimes asked, well, how do you know? How do you know if safety pays? Sometimes you don't. How do you know what an injury that was prevented, what impact that was going to have, what cost that was going to be? You can't measure it. But that's the challenge. But what I can tell you is that year over year at WSI, the number of claims coming into our office continues to decrease. The trends are going in the right direction. And while the number of claims continues to go down, the number of covered workers and the number of businesses that purchase their workers' compensation coverage from us continues to go up. Those are trends that we want to have. 420 some thousand North Dakotans rely on WSI to provide them coverage. Last year, 16,500 claims were entered into our system. Both are record numbers, and they're both where you want it. We are covering more people, and there are less people getting injured. And that is because of the actions and the mindsets of North Dakota workers, North Dakota businesses, and I believe programs like these and programs that are supported by our industry partners. We want to thank the North Dakota Petroleum Council, the North Dakota Safety Council, the Associated General Contractors of North Dakota OSHA, Vision Zero, the North Dakota State Patrol, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Governor's Office for their investment of time, resources, promotion of this important endeavor. We also want to thank the North Dakota Concrete Council. They're a supporter of this program as well. They were courteous enough to provide refreshments for us to have this morning, so we want to thank them for their donations. Thank you for being here, and more importantly, get home safe.